Lots to talk about today, so let's get started. I'm Nick, that's Liam. There's Bill Gates. No time to explain.
Somewhere there.
He's not actually participating, he's just listening today. Hi, Bill.
Well, he's out there.
And so I did a couple races pretty recently. I did a half marathon, which I'll start with. So this is the Beijing Yuanxiao run. First, I'll explain what the heck Yuanxiao means. It's a holiday in China, and it's every year on the 15th day of the new year. So, as you know, Chinese New Year changes each year, but the dates according to the traditional calendar, the lunar calendar, are the same. So it's a different date according to the calendar year. This is the 15th day of the new year, and it's also the end of the new year. So the new year period goes on for 15 days, and this is the last day. So it's kind of like the end of the intermission between winter and spring. So after that, everything warms up and so on. So that's what Yuanxiao means. It's the Yuanxiao festival. And this was a half marathon that I did in Beijing Olympic Forest Park, which is about 7 kilometers from where I live. It's great. And I hadn't done a half marathon in a while, or any race for a while. And this one was actually, I've done a few in Olympic Park, and it's quite good because it's really designed for doing half marathons or 10Ks or even full marathons. The track is just built with that distance in mind. And this one was a little bit unusual to me because it was in the North Park. It's in two different parks, and the North Park is only 5K. And you put the North and the South together, that's 10.5K. So they had it in the North one, and then you do 4 laps instead of doing 2 laps around the whole thing. I don't know why they did it that way, but apparently there are different ways to do it, or maybe they couldn't get the whole park, or it cost more money, or whatever. So I get there, and I had been doing a few weeks of actual training with the trainer. So I was pretty sure that I was going to PB this time. My previous PB was 1 hour 55 minutes, something like that. Yeah, yeah. And then so I get there and do some stretches, and the check-in process was actually a real pain. Like it just felt really disorganized. And I've been coming to China for the past 20 years, and when I first started coming, everything was just disorganized. It's gotten a lot better since then, but this just seemed like really old school. Like nothing made any sense. And even though I read Chinese and I can speak Mandarin, I'm always on the lookout of how good their English signage is and stuff like that, because there are always going to be foreigners who either don't live in China or they do, but they don't need to learn Chinese or they don't want to. So to make it more foreigner friendly. But there was just nothing. And then even with speaking Mandarin, it took me a while just to find the sign-in desk where I go. And then uh, as I'm waiting politely in line, people are like cutting in front of me, and just it's just like a mad scramble. So yeah, that didn't give me a very good impression. And then they asked me for my number, like my runner number, which I didn't have offhand. So they asked me for my name, but the list was all out of order. It's just a total mess. Anyway, let's just get to the race. So I do the race, and it's half marathon. I was feeling pretty good, going faster and feeling better than previous ones, probably from actual training. And I felt like, yeah, I was definitely going to PB this time. And the course was all right, even though it was 4 laps. I'd say that's about the maximum. After that, it gets pretty boring. 2 big laps would have been better, but whatever. It wasn't a huge deal. And also, there's no hill this way if you just do the North Park, because the hill is in between the two parks. And so I PB'd by 3 minutes, like a 152 something. I was actually kind of surprised. Thank you, thank you. I thought I was going to get more than that, especially towards the end. It's funny at the end because there was this one guy who was like, "Go faster!" And I turn around, I'm like, "Who, me?" And he's like, "No, the student that I'm training." because he was a trainer. And then he tells a student to catch the guy in blue. I was wearing blue. He's like, catch up with him. And it's like, no way that's happening. So I run as fast as I could, and then the guy behind me couldn't catch up. So I showed him and probably shaved like 5 seconds off my time. But that was kind of a fun sprint at the end. And then I was really tired afterwards, I think because of that 200-meter sprint that I did towards the end. But I still had some gas in the tank, which was a good sign. And then, yeah, it felt pretty good after that. Also, the bag pickup was really disorganized. Like you go there and it was only about 2 degrees, so pretty chilly. And a lot of people are in short sleeves, right? Like me, or at least very thin clothing. And then you have to line up to get your bag where your coat is. So you're sort of like all sweaty and shivering. And then you still have to wait like 3 or 4 minutes in line in the cold before you can get your bag. Like, couldn't they have more than one person giving the bags? And then you have to like describe what the bag is, and it's a mad scramble to find your bag. Yeah, just overall, definitely low points for organization. I think they could have done a lot better, but my personal experience was pretty good. So that's the Beijing Yuanxiao run.
Great, and congrats on the PB, first of all.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. Well, that's good to hear. Do you have goals to PB your next PB or to PB that just to get a new PB?
Yeah, I'm gonna attempt to keep the PBs coming. My
Okay.
next goal is 145.
Oh,
So I can do the pace that you would need to run 145 for like 5K, no problem. Probably 10K. So it's just a matter of extending the time that I can keep that pace for. Yeah, I think it's exactly 5 minute pace to do 1 hour 45 minutes. Yeah, and my pace for this one was like 117 or something like that. No, no, 517 or something like that. Yeah, I forget exactly, but yeah, I'm getting pretty close.
oh, that's good to hear. And the last 200 meters, I'm sure, was like a 2:56 pace.
Mm, I think it was in the negatives.
Oh,
So fast I was going. They couldn't even clock me. Oh
uh,
yeah, and the drink stations were really dumb too. Like they had this one drink station after the finish line, and for a half marathon, you don't really need to drink water, especially if it's pretty chilly. So they had the same amount of resources and people at each of the drink stations throughout the course, including the one after the finish line that everyone goes to. So it's just this huge mass of people,
uh,
and I'm walking around in circles waiting for an opening so that I can go grab something. And I don't want to just stop right away, right? So I probably walked around in like 4 or 5 circles before I ended up getting some juice. But the people are just like the mad scramble to fill all the glasses or the little paper cups to give people. Like, why wouldn't you put the same amount of people as another table at that station so that you're not scrambling and then fewer people around the course? I don't know.
yeah, I think that makes sense. I know that mad scramble. I've been pushed at a water station, and I've been in my
Yeah.
dinosaur costume, and someone just really pushed me just so he could get one cup of water, and I just looked at him like, really? You're just gonna push a dinosaur like that? He also, not to judge, but I think he was only running the 5K, and he was so just pent up, and he's like, "Oh, I need water. It was in the middle of the race. I'm 3 kilometers into this 5K run. Get out of my way, dinosaur!" And pushed me, and I was pretty grumpy. But that's in the past.
If he's really serious about his time, he probably wouldn't need water for 5K
Right. I think it was
or even
one of his
longer.
first times trying it, and maybe was just gassed out and excited. So I'll forgive him,
Mm,
I guess.
this time.
Yes.
Okay, so that's that one. And then the following weekend, I went to Yunnan. Yunnan is a place in southern China, close to Vietnam, actually. A lot of the flights transfer in Kunming, which is the provincial capital. And it's in like the southwest of China. It's very mountainous, pretty poor, like a lot of the mountainous regions of China. It's hard to grow stuff on mountains, apparently, other than potatoes. And this one was in a county called Luoping County, and the reason why they have it there is that it's where all the canola flowers are grown. You probably had canola oil. It comes from this plant. I think it's related to mustard,
Oh,
and they grow them in these huge fields. So it's like these really endless golden fields of canola flowers. Yeah, super beautiful. I did it last year. That was the first marathon I did in China, and I PB'd by like 20 minutes, mostly because my previous ones had all been in Southeast Asia. This was the first time that actually started at a reasonable time. Uh, and my previous PB was 4:33 for the Seoul Marathon. I wanted a PB this time, but I kind of knew I was going to just because I hadn't really trained before. And not that I've done a lot of training, but more than nothing. So to get there, I'll start with the itinerary first.
uh-huh.
So my flight left at 9:45 p.m. on Friday night. So I went straight to the airport from work and then took this flight, arrived in Kunming at 1 a.m., got to my hotel at 2 a.m. That was probably the hardest part, actually, was that really late night. Got about 5 hours sleep and then went to meet my friend Arco, the guy in his 60s who runs sub
Oh,
three
yes.
marathons. So I took the subway from the airport, and then he picked me up at another station. It was just much easier to do it that way than for him to go to the airport to pick me up. And then from Kunming to Luoping County is another 300 kilometers. So it's like a 3 hour drive, right?
Yeah.
And he was nice enough to drive. Otherwise, I don't think I would have been able to do it. I would have needed to take at least one day off, and it just wouldn't be worth it. But he was able to and willing to drive. We get out there, and then first we pick up our race kits. And this was the first time that I needed an ECG record, like a heart monitor record.
I was gonna say, isn't that for the heart? Yeah.
Yeah, they needed everyone to show it this time, and I was like, yeah, I've got one of those. I did it before I started my job last year. It was about 6 months ago. It'll be fine. What's the worst that could happen? So we get in line, and then my friend is like, "Oh yeah, they check it pretty strictly." Like, "Oh, okay, well, I'll figure it out." So I look at the date, and it was from 7.5 months ago. So it was actually expired. And then I noticed that my name isn't even on it. It's mine, but how do they know that? So I wait in line, and even if they don't accept it or if you don't have it, you can still get one done on site. Like you can go to the
Oh,
hospital and get one done for like $6, but it would just kind of be a hassle, right? But
mhm.
fortunately, they took one look at it and they were like, "Yeah, looks good," and let me in. And one big takeaway from this marathon is that they give you tons of stuff like foods and drinks. I had a beer in my race kit, like a tall can. And then they have like some booths outside where you can play games and stuff. I won another beer that way. I didn't end up even taking it with me because I had to get a flight the day after. So someone got my two free beers, and there were like two little bags of potato chips in there, instant noodles, beef jerky, like a pickled egg, just like all kinds of crazy stuff. And that ended up being my breakfast the day of the marathon, just all this random stuff. I kind of regretted that later because it was kind of like too much nonsense for my stomach. And but we didn't have to go anywhere to get breakfast, so save some hassle that way. It was a little bit chilly, about 5 degrees, so 1 degree warmer than last year, I remember. And then it warmed up to 6 degrees later on, which is manageable. It's very foggy there. Like as we were driving there, we go through this tunnel, and before you go into the tunnel, it's sunny, and then on the other side of the mountain, it's all foggy. So it's like a totally different climate on both sides of this mountain. And the marathon's in the place where it's always foggy. But it wasn't super cold. I think a few weeks earlier, and it would be maybe less chilly. Pretty big. Full marathon was 3,200 people, and half marathon was 6,000 plus, and I think there's a 5K in there. So at least 10,000 people. And like most marathons in China, it's very well organized. Like the logistics of it are really good. They close off the streets. You don't have to worry about cars. Uh, and it goes through the fields. So the route is really well planned and really clear. Beautiful scenery and lots of people cheering and even like bands and dancers and stuff along the way. I posted a video of it. I used my Insta360 action cam, uh, and then I would take some footage along the way, so you can actually see basically a first person view of it. There's mountains, and yeah, it's pretty awesome. And I was with the 4:30 pacers the whole time. My plan was just to stick close with them, and then rush out for the last kilometer or so, and then I would definitely PB that way. And that's what I did, and it worked. My final time was 4:28, and I feel like I can still go faster than that. If I keep training like I'm training, I'll get faster and faster each time. 4:15 still seems pretty far away, but making progress. And it was a lot of fun. Afterwards, so Arco, he had an injury, so he only did the half marathon, probably in like an hour. But yeah, he says he'll probably never break a full marathon record again, just because of his age and he recovers more slowly from injuries. So 2:52, I think, is good enough. Like you can
Yes.
totally retire there. That's amazing.
And that 252 was
And
when he was in his 60s, just to
yeah,
double check.
the
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
2:52, he started running in his 50s. So it was either his late 50s
Right.
or his around 60.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
in the past few years, yeah, it's pretty amazing. So they were all done before me. The other guy in the car who was the slow one was 3:39. So I'm like the newbie. And we kind of had to rush because there wasn't a big window after I finished until my flight.
Mhm.
So to get to where they were parked, they had to move the car so it was outside of the course so that we could leave right after. And that worked. And then we were on the road and we got to the airport actually with lots of time to spare. So traffic was really good. There was no problem there, and nothing that could have slowed us down along the way happened. So got to my flight with time to spare, and then got back to Beijing at around midnight, and tried to get one of those uh, ride hail. Is that what you call it? One of those ride hail cars, but you couldn't find the entrance of it, of where you go in to pick up passengers. So I ended up waiting like half an hour for a 20-minute route, right? 20-minute ride. So by the time I got home, it was like 1 a.m. It should have been, 12:30. The next day, I just took the day off. My ankle was a little bit swollen like it had been before. And I went to my therapy specialist that evening, but he said it was just temporary. And as expected, the next day it was totally fine. So it was just from a lot of volume at once. And I managed to pack it all into one weekend. It was quite tight, but manageable. Next year, I still plan on doing it, and I'll probably take a day or maybe both days off. And this year, I'm kind of strapped for vacation days, but next year I'll plan in advance for it. Part of the reason is I don't want it to be so rushed. Also, I had to pay for the hotel the first night. It was only like $20, but I don't know. It would just be a lot easier if I could take my time getting there. And also, they didn't have a chance to actually do anything in Luoping because they had to rush me back to the airport after, right? So if I can take an
Great.
extra day off, then they can take it easier too. But yeah, it was super generous of them to do that, and it was a great experience.
Oh,
Arco and I are considering doing one in the Philippines in November.
oh, interesting. Okay, I guess we'll probably talk more about that in future episodes. But yeah, Philippines would be nice. Have you Philippines was the one where you ran barefoot and burned your feet, is that right?
Yes, that was
Yes.
on my
Right.
own, and that will go down in the books of stupid stuff that I've done forever and ever. And yeah, this is an actual marathon. It's the Rock and Roll series. Have you heard of that?
Oh, I think I've seen an advertisement for that one in the Philippines. Yes, I've heard of that series.
There's one in Taiwan too. I think they must have them all over.
Oh, yeah.
It's sponsored by ASICS. Uh, the Shanghai Marathon is on the same day as that one, so if he gets his ballot drawn, then he'll probably do Shanghai. But just looks super fun.
Oh,
Yeah. So I think now he can kind of retire and just do marathons for fun. He doesn't necessarily need to PB, but people run for different reasons. I'm kind of going in the opposite direction where I've done a lot of running for fun and still am. But now I'm starting to try to get faster. Yeah, so those are the two races that I've done recently. The Yuanxiao half marathon and then Luoping full marathon.
yeah, and congratulations on two PBs since we last talked. That's exciting.
Just getting started.
Yes, yeah, great. And I guess I'll get started with my updates.
Yeah,
I
so
have
you've been doing some
this.
long runs
Yeah,
in preparation
I've been
for something
getting
even
some long
longer.
runs. Yes, I haven't done any races for almost 2 months now. I did a really small marathon
Whoa.
in January, and I just don't like the cold weather. I hate the winter. Um,
Mm.
part of the reason is probably because I continue to wear shorts throughout the winter, which is one of the reasons I feel so cold. That's another story. We'll talk about that another time. But yes, so I've avoided big races and I've just been running a lot. This weekend, I finally have a race. Actually, last weekend I was supposed to, but I registered too late and I missed the deadline by like half an hour. So this weekend, I finally have my comeback, and it is my first ultra marathon of the year. It will be 100 kilometers in Busan in South Korea. And for those of you who might have heard of Busan, there's two famous things. One is zombies from Train to Busan, and I don't think they'll be there. The other is the beach. I've actually been to Busan twice already, and I've never seen the beach.
Mm.
Um, I planned, long story short, I planned a trip. I caught COVID right when the trip was supposed to start, got stuck in a quarantine, and then I had a concert the other time, and I had to take the train right when it finished. And yes, I've never seen the beach, but this is called the Busan Beach Ultra Marathon. So for 100 kilometers, I will see nothing but beach. So I'm excited for that.
Mm. It
So
goes all along the beach.
yes, so it's flat. That's another good thing. So it's nice, nice and flat, and it not just in Busan. It kind of goes out towards another city and back. But yeah, it will be hopefully a beautiful race. And I've been actually kind of training for this one. I don't know. I haven't looked at any ultra marathon training plans. I'm just kind of making it up as I go. Um, because in this case, like I'm not going for a super fast time as with any race, but I'm just going for completion. As I mentioned
Mm.
before, my goal is at least five 100Ks this year. I signed up for three so far, and this is my first one. We'll talk about more on the next episodes, but yes, I've been doing some training. So 3 weeks ago, um, I did a 50K with like some breaks in the middle, like really slow. I have a Monday running group. We run about 15 kilometers together. So I'd kind of casually go there alone, maybe 10K, run together, run back, and then just kind of run around my neighborhood to get to 50. And I'd take walking breaks, some food breaks. We had dinner after our group run. So it wasn't like really 50K all out or anything like that.
Mm.
A week later, it was similar, except I got to the group run and I realized somewhat everyone in the group had something come up and they all had to cancel. So I
Mm.
had started running about 3 hours before, so I didn't check that. And I looked, I was like, oh, nobody's here. It's 7 o'clock, 7:03, 7:05. And I looked and mine was the only name on the list of participants. So I said, oh, I checked the group messages and they all had very valid excuses. So I said, okay. So at that point, I already had about 40 kilometers in. So yeah, I just kept going. And then in the middle of that, I took a nap, went, had some food. So it wasn't all at once, but my goal for the day was 70 kilometers. And to really test my endurance, 2 days before that, I did a lower body workout, like strength workout with weights. So even just walking, I felt pretty sore. So every time I stopped and
Mm.
started again, it was really like, oh, what am I doing? This is bad. But now I know, hopefully this coming weekend, I will not have any discomfort like that because I've prepared to do 70 kilometers in a very fatigued and sore state. So this weekend should be good. And for my last run on this Monday, I went to the fortress walls of Seoul. I guess in English they say fortress walls or old city walls, old castle walls.
Mm.
In Korean they say Hanyang Dosong, and it's just like old, cool looking walls around I guess the middle area of Seoul. If you've ever been to the palaces in Seoul, just a big circle around that, and it's about 20 kilometers. So the same running group.
Mm.
This Monday was a holiday, so we went all around that. And from my house to the meeting place was about 10 kilometers. And then we did that together. And then 10 kilometers back, adding some kilometers here and there. Because the biggest challenge of this run is that I'm actually afraid of heights. And
Mm.
sometimes there's no problem. Sometimes it's a huge problem. Like the same route. Some days I think this is beautiful. Some days I just freeze and I can barely even walk. I don't understand why. It's not me thinking, oh, I'm so scared I might fall off. It's nothing like that, but for some reason my body freezes. I'm sure we can get into the psychology of that in a different theme of podcast some other time. But yes, so this time on the very last part of the city walls, it wasn't even that high of a mountain, but just the way the stairs were, I just froze and
Oh,
I said,
wow.
okay, go ahead and I'll catch up. Yeah, and it was bad. And it was only like maybe 350 meters. And I've done other races in Korea that are like 1900 meters. So it's not, I guess it doesn't make logical sense to me. It's a bit illogical, but that's what phobias are. So, anyways, that happened to me. So kind of, I took a bit of a detour down and kind of got lost on the mountain, and I didn't have any Wi-Fi, so I added a few extra kilometers, which is how it ended up being 50 in the end. But yeah, in the end, I survived, and now I'm just relaxing slowly. I'm only jogging from my house to lunch every day and back, so usually about 5 kilometers per day, really, really slow with some walking breaks, just to get ready for this race on Saturday in Busan.
So how much volume are you doing a week?
I've been for since January, usually about 100 kilometers per week is my goal.
Okay. And then this week you've
Yes.
tapered it.
Right.
Oh, it is this week, so you don't need to
Yeah,
do a lot of volume.
right. So
I
on
see.
Monday, I probably couldn't have done 50-kilometer run a few days before the race. That's not really tapering, but FOMO, I didn't want to miss out on this run. So
Right.
this week, I guess I'll hit like 160.
Yeah, if not more.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
guess so. But yeah, and I've been eyeing up calendars of if I can save up enough money for the rest of this year. I guess I'm getting interested in the 100-kilometer runs and signed up for two in the past week, one in Korea, one in Canada.
Oh,
And
cool.
yeah, as those come up, I'm sure we can talk more about them.
What's the one in Canada?
It's the UTMB Whistler.
That's in May, isn't it?
This is in September.
Oh. Oh, I saw one in May in Whistler. Maybe there's lots of them.
I think there's a few, and this one there's some
Hmm.
controversy. I haven't been in Vancouver. I don't know. There's like someone else who had this race, and they kind of pushed him out. It's controversial.
Sure.
But my Korean friend is on a working holiday in Canada, and I met that friend while doing a 100-kilometer race, and she posted online saying, "Anyone want to run this 100K in Vancouver?" And I was like, "Hey, we only met once in the mountains of Jeju Island doing a different 100K, but I'm down." So yeah, that'll be a nice reunion.
Uh, and back to the one that you're doing in Korea, that's coming this weekend. Do you think you're ready for it? You've done a few hundred
I
Ks
think so.
before, right?
Yeah, so this one's mostly flat on the beach. It's not too hot. This is
Hmm.
also all night. So we start at 5 p.m. So that could be a bit challenging because I'll take the train Saturday morning. I took the cheapest, longest train so I can sleep on the train, but I'll be sitting up like on the train. So I don't expect it to be
Hmm.
comfortable. I'll definitely be a bit sore and probably get tired near the end, but I think it will be relatively okay compared to all the other ultras I've done in the past, which have been very hilly and mountainous.
And what do you expect your time will be, roughly?
Ooh, that's a good question. I would like to get a 100K PB, which is not saying much because I always get in about half an hour before the cutoff. But I'd say
Mm,
I would like 14 or 15 hours would be a good goal. Cutoff is 17
mm,
hours. To keep it safe, I'd say 14 or
wow.
15.
Good luck and have fun.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Because my goal is yes, have fun and run the next day.
Okay. And you said the route is 100 kilometers and it's all beach. Is there that much beach in that part of Korea?
So not like true beach, like with sand and beautiful roads. It's just along the coast, I guess. So there are lots of
Okay.
actual roads and like that kind of area. So yeah, it's not true beach for all of it, but part of it is.
But you can see the ocean the whole time,
As far as I know, yes.
except for the darkness.
Yeah, yeah, that's the other thing. It's dirt the entire time.
Okay, well, all the best with that, and looking forward to hearing about it next episode.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I hope so. And I guess there's an update about a run we've talked about before that I don't know if you've read, but I feel it might be a good time to share it with the world. Is that something that was on both of our bucket lists has finally been reopened. The Pyongyang International Marathon is now coming back. It was stopped since coronavirus, and just about an hour ago, I saw an article saying it's coming back, and anyone can register as long as you are not South Korean, American, or Malaysian.
And you can finish it in 4 hours or less.
Hopefully.
That's what I heard pretty
Oh, really?
recently. Yeah, that you have to finish it in under 4 hours. I didn't ask what happens if you don't.
Oh, I have comments. I don't know if I'm allowed to say them, but I have comments
I
off the
have comments
record.
in my head too. Yeah, so it sounds pretty hardcore. But there's apparently like a huge crowd of 80,000 people that comes in and cheers you on. So there
Great.
better be no chatting. This is a very serious run. Okay, that's all for this episode. Uh, enjoy life.
Enjoy life. And thank you, Bill Gates, again for listening.
Yeah, thanks for coming out, Bill. This has been a pleasure. Hope to see you again next time.
Bill.